Despite the fact that many conservatives and economic experts from the Bush White House support Elmendorf and call him fair to all sides, incoming House Budget Chairman Tom Price and other Republicans want someone who will score tax policy differently. And soon they'll be able to put that someone at the head of the Congressional Budget Office.
All right, let's add another wonderful and sage piece of wisdom to the goings-on inside the Beltway. Never let the lack of cooperation or compromise on any side keep you from your appointed round so long as you have a cadre of attorneys at the ready. Oh, and while we're at it, one more. Fear not another budget battle, because with Republicans in charge, everything will be smooth sailing from here on out and more orderly than you could possibly imagine. Let that sit for a moment. Prepare for the dastardly reality. Let's welcome into Midpoint, ladies first and from the right, founder and principal of the strategic communications firm bearing her name, former national news anchor, spokesperson for the governor of Georgia, Loretta Lepore. And from the left, former deputy staff secretary to President Bill Clinton, now D.C.-based attorney David Goodfriend. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thanks, Ed. Good to be here.
All right, Loretta, let's go ahead and start with you, ladies first. Here we are, budget battle. Everything gets going tomorrow, Tuesday, first day. In your opinion, and the absolute positive one thing that the Republicans have to sit on, don't give up, don't walk away from it no matter what happens, but this is what they've got to start with. Go.
Well, they're going to have to start with immigration reform, first and foremost, because that's what's tying up most of the disagreement within the caucus. And that's the most impending deadline that they're facing at the end of February. So that item needs to be addressed for many different reasons. One, so that they can get on with budgeting, and two, because it's it's a parallel issue with the next presidential race. So this item needs to be addressed, and an overwhelming majority of Americans, up to 80% of Americans, want immigration reform.
All right, David, I'm going to throw it to you. We're going to get to immigration reform in a moment, but set the stage here right now. From the left, the one thing that you've got to stop, that they have to make sure doesn't happen, that they have to completely be together on and make certain that they do not crack ranks.
Well, that would, to me, would have to be anything involving the budget. And that could include, for example, the budget resolution that the Republicans will bring up going forward, sort of setting out a framework for the entire Congress over the next 2 years. That only requires a simple majority to pass. But it also, as my colleague mentioned, could include the appropriation for the Homeland Security agencies, which are intimately involved in implementing the president's executive order on immigration. So anything having to do with the budget is a very high-stakes game, not the least of which because Senator McConnell, now the majority leader, has said there will not be a shutdown of the government. And with that as a goalpost, it's going to be incumbent on both sides to compromise if they want to avoid a shutdown.
All right, now let me throw it to you because I want to go back to what Loretta said. She said 80%, and this is what we hear a lot of times from the right, 80% of Americans want immigration reform. You've got to go ahead and take care of that right now. Why is it that I hear then a lot of people on the left saying, wait a minute, that number is completely wrong. We've got to stop this. We've got to make sure the Republicans don't get their way.
Well, I'd be curious to figure out what the question was that was asked in that poll. Yes, a vast majority of Americans support immigration reform, and a vast majority of senators from both parties voted in favor of a legislative proposal that was passed out of the Senate last Congress. So yes, there is overwhelming support for immigration reform. Now, if you ask some people about whether that should include a pathway for citizenship for the 10 million people who are here undocumented, then you get some differences of opinion. But I think reform, as a general matter, is widely popular in both parties. The question will be whether or not the Republicans in charge of Congress now will try to do something that is far afield from what the Senate passed in a bipartisan way last Congress.
60 seconds, and we'll take a break. Loretta, to you then regarding immigration reform. Can the Republicans stop infighting long enough to create some sort of compromise, idea, plan, whatever, that it can happen and it won't be stuck in committee, it won't be stuck on a president's desk for another 2, 3, 4 years and then decades on?
Yes, and I think what you're going to see Republicans do is break it down into incremental pieces rather than try to pass a comprehensive reform package. So I think where you're going to find consensus, as David mentioned, even across the aisle, are going to be on securing borders, on fixing what is the legal immigration system, which is severely broken, and also addressing the issue of those professionals that come into this country in the STEM field, so the tech visas for the technology workers. I think you're going to see broad bipartisan support for those initiatives, and I think you're going to see Republicans come together on that but try to pass it incrementally rather than as some type of comprehensive immigration reform package.
Okay, both of you stand by, please. Loretta Lepore and David Goodfriend back after the break. We'll dig into the latest manner in which the GOP believes they can take the president to the figurative woodshed, and that's by using lawyers. That and so much more coming up right here on Midpoint.